Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Kano Tryharding modern video. Today, we'll be playing Eldrazi Tron, because it's been a while. Few interesting things of note since the last time I played Eldrazi Tron. We do have a wish board for Karn Great Creator. A couple of things I'm noticing that I don't normally see in the wish board. We have multiple pieces of Grave Hate between 2 relics and Grafdigger's Cage, no main deck relics. There is a Torpor Orb and a Mystic Forge. Torpor Orb presumably helps against things like Titan, and Mystic Forge is some insane late-game card advantage value. And in the main deck, the main thing I'm noticing is 24 lands instead of, I think it's normally 23 or 22. But I'm seeing some tech lands I don't normally see. For first instance is 2 Blast Zones instead of 1. And I do see a Scavenger Grounds, that's usually normal, but I also see a Seagate Wreckage, which does give you a little bit of a late game card advantage to help, like, I don't know, get you through the late game, and a Tech Edge instead of a Ghost Quarter. This one is new, and I've actually played against this. Don't know if that's better than Ghost Quarter, but it probably is in a deck like this. Multiple Walking Ballistas and Warping Whales in the main. Singleton, Maze Mind Tome, and Mind Stone. Kind of interesting that this deck is playing Singletons in the 2-drop slot, but yeah. Other than that, I don't really have a lot to say about it. I'll see you guys in round 1. Alright, we will be on to play game 1. And we have, if this hand had an Eldrazi Temple, this hand would be like the Eldrazi hand, but I think I've got to mulligan this. The odds that we get a better hand is, I guess, pretty likely. This hand can get us an Eldrazi Temple. Maybe I was supposed to keep the opener. I think I'll keep this one and put back Walking Ballista, because this at least gets us to either Tron or an Eldrazi Temple with relative ease. I'm against Gigantha, which means probably Tron with no Walking Ballista in the main. I'm going to put back Ballista. Lead on Power Plant Map. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Windswept Teeth. Okay. We untap and draw Blast Zone. Play Blast Zone. Pass the turn. Next turn we can play Eldrazi Temple, play Matter Reshaper, and leave up Dismember. This is no longer looking like Tron. This could be like Bring to Light, some other kind of 5-color deck. Could even be like, I think the Heliod combo without... No, it can't be the Heliod combo because they can't be playing Walking Ballista or, what's it called? The Ranger Captain of Eos. I have not had enough coffee today. So some kind of Jeskai deck so far. Map for Temple. Untap, we draw Ballista. Play Temple. Play Reshaper. Okay, opponent untaps. I'm trying to think of what Jeskai deck this could be. It could also be 4-color or 5-color because of the fact that there was a green fetch here. Okay, Snow-Covered Mountain. Saheeli Rai. So this is looking like Cat Combo. I don't know why I don't automatically guess Cat Combo. I tend to forget that the deck exists. I mean, even if they uptick here, we can at least play Ballista on 2 and then kill Saheeli. Or I can just play Matter or Reality Smasher. That seems more reasonable. Play Scavenger Grounds. Play Reality Smasher. Go to combat. Attack our opponent. Attack Saheeli. Okay, Saheeli down. Opponent takes 3. Pass the turn. The nice thing is Dismember does disrupt my opponent's combo. Okay, opponent plays Misty. Cracks Misty. Gets a Forest. They are 4-color, but that's usually because they play Oath of Nissa. Alright, opponent plays Felidar Guardian. They're probably going to flicker their Hallowed Fountain. If they have Path, they'll flicker Hallowed Fountain. If they don't, they'll flicker something else. They have Path. I guess they could have Opt, but... Play Urza's Tower. Let's go ahead and Dismember. I could have attacked first. Go to combat. Attack for 8. Take them to 5. I'm going to save Walking Ballista as basically just a fireball. Okay, Reality Smasher trigger. They discard Utopia Sprawl. They get a Wastes. Opponent gets hit for 3. Play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Opponent plays Wall of Blossoms. Okay. Plays Breeding Pool tapped. And is passing. So let's draw an extra card. Reality Smasher. Untap. We'll scry here. See if we can't hit a mine or another temple. Power plant to the bottom. We draw power plant. Scrybug. Play Smasher. Go to combat. Attack for 8. Okay. Opponent blocks Wall of Blossoms, takes 5. I'm going to pass the turn. If they have second cat, second Saheeli, they win, I think, if they have a land. 4 mana. Omnath. Okay. They have an Omnath. They play a land, they gain 4. And they pass. Tick up Blast Zone. We untap. Gonna scry. Basically looking for Urza's Mine. Thought-Knot Seer. Well, that does technically disrupt my opponent. There's probably not a bad draw here. I think I'm gonna put this to the bottom. We draw a map. Alright. Play map. Crack map. We'll get an Urza's Mine. Play Urza's Mine. It's 2, 4, 6, 10 mana. So I can play Ballista X5. I mean, if my opponent has a remand, this will be annoying. Play Ballista. I mean, maybe I should have played this second main, but I want to force my opponent into blocking. Go to combat. Attack for 8. Opponent has Path for Ballista. So we can ping down Omnath. And the question is, do we ping Wall of Blossoms? Or do we ping our opponent? I actually think I'm going to ping Wall of Blossoms. Because this means that if they don't block, they go to 1. And if they go to 1 and they need a fetch land to combo, they can't play the fetch land. Well, they can't play it and activate it, I mean. Okay, they go to 1. Pass the turn. Yeah, I probably should have attacked and then played Walking Ballista after the fact to give them the opportunity to play. They're going to flicker Wall of Blossoms. At least they're not flickering a land to just immediately assemble the combo. Alright, we got there. So, versus our opponent's deck. I don't think we make any adjustments. I think we just run it back. Alright, yeah, this hand seems good. We'll keep. We're going to lead on Eldrazi Temple, just so that... Unless we draw Urza's Tower, we're going to lead on Eldrazi Temple to give us the opportunity for the turn 2 Thought-Knot. Play Temple, pass the turn. Opponent starts Temple Garden tapped after mulliganing to 6. Okay. Opponent plays Wooded Foothills and passes. We draw Seagate Wreckage. Play Power Plant. Pass the turn. So the way that they're going to get us here is if they have turn 3 Saheeli and they're holding 2 Felidar Guardians in hand. That's how we lose. The only way we get around that is by drawing another Eldrazi Temple. If they don't have that line, then Thought-Knot Seer is going to be pretty amazing. Okay, opponent plays Snow-Covered Plains and passes. We draw Mind Stone. Play Urza's Mine. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Opponent has Saheeli Rai, Omnath, Felidar Guardian. They only have 1 blue or red source. White, green, blue, or red, green. They can't play Omnath either. Do I take Felidar Guardian from them? They can play Knight of Autumn. I guess Omnath represents the biggest problem if they play him next turn. So we'll take Omnath. We haven't played any artifacts, so that Knight of Autumn is not doing too much right now. Okay, opponent plays their Forest. They can play Knight of Autumn, or they can play Felidar Guardian. They play Felidar Guardian. Flickering the Temple Garden. Wow, if they have the Path again? Okay. They should have flickered the Snow-Covered Forest to try and make me play scared or something. Alright, play Seagate Wreckage. Play a Mind Stone. I guess maybe we should have Thought-Knot Seared Felidar Guardian, because that was the card they could play. Take Saheeli Rai. Go to combat. Hit them for 4. Because now that they're holding the island, they could, in theory, top deck Saheeli Rai and we could just lose here. They can only do that this turn, though. Are they going to naturalize my Mind Stone? That seems questionable. It seems to me that it would be much better to just put the counters on and have a blocker, but... Okay, Warping Whale. Warping Whale is good because it can exile the Felidar Guardian. Go to combat. Attack for 8. Opponent takes 8 and goes to 7. We gotta play Thought-Knot here so we can keep up a Warping Whale. But we get to see what their last card in hand is. It's a Misty. Pass the turn. So their only hope is draw Saheeli, infinitely clone Felidar, and we have a Warping Whale for that. Wow, they actually had it too. I mean, we just had everything this game. Yep. Okay, Saheeli's ability fizzles, and that's the game. They can't block enough. Nice. Alright, see you guys in round 2. Alright, we'll be on the draw. We have a Temple, we have a Matter Reshaper, and we have a Chalice against a Luris deck, so I'm going to keep... Hopefully we can get down a turn 2 Chalice, and that's going to matter a lot. I just realized I haven't gotten to eat much breakfast yet. I had a protein bar today. Opponent is leading on Inquisition, so say goodbye to Chalice. Yep. Lead on Temple, pass the turn. But I weighed myself this morning, and I am down 16.5 pounds from like 27 days ago. So, alright. Thoughtseize Curse strikes again. For those of you that don't know what the Thoughtseize Curse is, if you Thoughtseize your opponent and take a card that absolutely hoses your deck, your opponent is destined to draw it as their next top deck. Opponent fetches, shocks, bolts us? Yes. Nice. Chalice on 1 versus a deck that is almost entirely 1-drops, and they scoop. Alright, free win Chalice. I don't think we make any adjustments. I think we just run it back. We could bring in relics, but Death Shadow and its variations really don't play the Delve threats anymore. It's almost insane to me to think that the Delve threats got outclassed, because those cards were broken when they first got released. Like, think about it. You're playing a deck that was Grixis, so you're playing blue, one of the best colors in Magic, and in that deck you have Thought Scour, which becomes a cantripping Dark Ritual for your Delve threats. That's pretty good. And those threats don't even get played anymore. Because we have even more broken 1 and 2 drops now. Okay, what are the odds that my opponent starts Thoughtseize again? Roughly 1,000,000%, but I think I have to keep a Chalice hand, so I'm going to. Opponent leads on Bloodstained Mire, fetches, shocks Overgrown Tombs. Is it a Hex Drinker? It's a Thoughtseize. It's always a Thoughtseize. So, I don't know what it is about Thoughtseize decks, but I think every single time I've played against Death Shadow, if you were to total it all up, I believe it works out to something like 80% of the time they lead on Hand Hate, and the remaining 20% of the time they play Monastery Swiftspear, with like less than 1% of the time they have no turn 1 play. And for me, if I play a deck that plays 4 Thoughtseize and 4 Inquisition, it's only like 30% of the time I get to lead on Hand Hate. It's pretty absurd. Alright, play Cavern, name Eldrazi. I think we're going to go with Mind Stone, because potentially we can play Thought Knot next turn. Otherwise, next turn we can play Maze Mind Tome and activate it. I just, like, don't seem to have the luck required to play some of these decks. Okay, we are going to attempt to dismember here. If my opponent does an instant speed way to lose life, they don't. Fantastic. We draw redundant Thought Knot Seer. We are tapping for white mana off of Cavern to make this uncounterable to play around Dash Hopes. That's a card no one's ever heard of. For those of you that don't know, it's a double black counterspell, counter target spell unless its controller pays 5 life. So it's a card that no one ever hears of or plays. It's also not good. So we can take Bauble and prevent them from having a redraw. We also exile it if that's the case, and I think we do because they're going to put Luris in their hand next. I could take Battle Rage, but they can't cast Battle Rage on anything, so pass the turn. Alright, plays the mountain we knew about. And they drew Tarmogoyf. Woo, Tarmogoyf. We draw Power Plant. Play Power Plant. Take Temur Battle Rage from them. Play Maze Mind Tome. Pass the turn. I'm not going to scry yet, because there's always the chance that I get Assassin's Trophied. Okay, opponent puts Luris in their hand. They go to combat. Attack us for 5, no blocks. We take 5 and go to 11. Scry. Matter Reshaper is an excellent blocker. I'm going to keep it. We untap, draw Matter Reshaper, play Matter Reshaper, go to combat, hit them for 4. So opponent can play Luris and then get Death Shadow, but we have Blast Zone to deal with a Death Shadow if they attack. We really just need to find our other Dismember, or, like, in 2 top decks, hit Tower and Walking Ballista to win. So there's a Luris. They have 1 unknown card in hand. They play Death Shadow. They're leaving up the red mana. I guess they have to. It was red or green, and red actually represents a lightning bolt. They attack us for 5. We chump. This lets us get a draw. All is dust. Alright, we just need to find a land. Draw an extra card. There's a land. We untap. Draw another Urza's Mine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Cast all his dust for victory? Nice! Alright. Chalice of the Void OP. See you guys in round 3. Alright, we're on the play for round 3. We have Eldrazi Temple double map and Thought Not Seer. I think I will keep this. And we can't play Thought Not Seer until turn 3. So big brain play, we're going to lead on Urza's Tower. Technically, it is it's a higher chance for me to draw another Urza's land than it is to draw a second temple right now. So that would guarantee the turn 3 Thought Not Seer. We untap and draw Blast Zone. Okay. So play Eldrazi Temple, and we will pass. We will be mapping for an Eldrazi Temple here. Opponent untaps. I kind of hope that they just play like 7 Soulscar Mages right in a row. That's not what I asked for, but it's what I will have to deal with. Opponent goes to combat, hits us for 2. Or way more because Mutagenic Growth or Gut Shot. Okay, Gut Shot. Technically less damage than Mutagenic Growth. But that, with 2 prowess triggers, was effectively a free Lightning Bolt. There's more. But wait, there's more! Okay, map for Temple. Untap. Draw map. Play Temple. Play Thought Not Seer. Take a look at their 3-card hand. Lava Dart, light up the stage, Manamorphose. Lava Dart represents the most damage, and we exile it, so they can't. This gets rid of 2 prowess triggers. Light up the stage is a problem, and so is Manamorphose, but Lava Dart actually, I think, represents what we have to get rid of the most here. Play Expedition Map, pass the turn. Okay, opponent leads on Manamorphose, which is really their only initial play here. If they don't hit a land, and they don't hit a burn spell, they can't cast Light Up the Stage this turn. So they get a Swift Spear, they go to combat. They should just attack in the air, but... do they know we have Blast Zone? No. Block here. I guess this only goes wrong if they drew Mutagenic Growth. They did? Alright. Well, just like we had everything last round, our opponent seems to have everything this round. And they drew a land, and they get to light up the stage. That's pretty good. They got Lava Dart and Opt. We draw Smasher. So I could play Blast Zone, crack it, and die. Next game. I would have had to have a third Eldrazi Temple and an All Is Dust in hand. So we're bringing in Spatial Contortions, and I'm going to take out... what do I take out in this matchup? I think 1 Ugin and 1 Dismember. I can't completely give up Dismember, because it's one of the few ways we can almost guarantee a kill on Stormwing Entity, but our opponent is definitely all in Blitz. Maybe I'm supposed to mulligan to Chalice for this matchup, although now they'll know it's coming. Alright, I would like to play first. This hand is not keepable. Alright, I mean, we have a Walking Ballista, 2 Matter Reshapers, and 2 lands and a Chalice, so I think we've got to try and keep this. Honestly, we're not casting All Is Dust unless we rip the other 2 Tron lands right off the top, and that's not super likely. So we're going to put back All Is Dust and pray for once that Chalice might beat Blitz. I think it has maybe 30% of the time for me, mainly because without Simian Spirit Guide and no way to play this on turn 1, my opponent, all they have to do is go like Soulscar Mage into Sprite Dragon into dump the rest of their hand as prowess triggers, and I die anyway. Like, not even letting their spells resolve, just dump their hand and make them prowess triggers. Like, when every spell you have is all of my creatures get +1/+1, even if the spell gets countered, it's pretty good. Alright, opponent goes Spire Bluff Canal into the dreaded Swift Spear. They attack us for 1, we untap, draw Reality Smasher, play Wastes, play Chalice on 1. And with any luck, my opponent will have Smash to Smithereens as well. Alright, opponent untaps. Plays a Steam Vents, untapped. A Braid. Well, it's not Smash to Smithereens, but... there goes that game plan. Aha! What will you do now? The worst part is this doesn't even save me. Like, I need to be casting other threats. I need to top deck an Eldrazi Temple right now. Oh, we get hit for 1. Opponent's gonna light up the stage. Yep. Swift Spear and Manamorphose. They play a Steam Vents untapped. They play Stormwing Entity. Okay, I need to top deck Spatial Contortion. And that doesn't even do it, actually, but I need to top deck Spatial Contortion. We untap. We draw Power Plant. Well, play Matter Reshaper. Pass the turn. If I get an Eldrazi Temple, I might be able to race. Maybe. But it plays Metamorphose. I think I mentioned this before, but it's been a while. So Chalice of the Void used to be much better versus Burn and Blitz and other decks that previously existed. But with the advent of cards that can be played for 1 mana, like Light Up the Stage and Skewer the Critics specifically, are the 2 cards I'm thinking of. Chalice has gotten way worse, like infinitely worse. Alright, opponent casts a Lightning Bolt, it gets countered, we still take 1 extra damage. Chalice finds us all as dust. We draw Dismember, which, if I Dismember right now, I will save myself 4 damage. Guaranteed. If I play Matter Reshaper, I get a redraw. Yeah, I have to Dismember. This is disgusting. So Dismember Stormwing Entity, play Walking Ballista on 1. Pass the turn. So how do I get out of this? Because I'm taking 3 damage in the air. I need to draw... I need my opponent to have nothing, is what I need my opponent to have. That's what has to happen here. And when you're at that point, odds are you're going to lose. Because hoping that your opponent's plan is bad or out of gas basically means whatever plan you have left is not actually good enough to win. Ping our opponent. We take 4, go to 4, untap. We draw Scavenger Grounds, play Scavenger Grounds, play Matter Reshaper, and we are dead to any spell. So my opponent literally has to be holding 3 lands for me to win this game, or even survive till next turn. They attack us for 3 in the air, no blocks, and we die. Yep. It's pretty good. I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, we'll be on the draw for round 4, and I think this hand is fine enough to keep. We could lead on map, leave up Warping Whale / Crack Map for Temple on turn 2. Okay, so our opponent is Blitz again, it would appear. Play Power Plant, play Map, pass the turn. Stubborn Denial. Okay, so they are actually Grixis Death Shadow, and that lack of map is going to be pretty bad for us. We get Thought Seized. We untap, draw Blast Zone, play Tech Edge, pass the turn. Opponent voluntarily loses life by tapping their land. We get Thought Seized again. They can take Karn, or Thought Knot Seer. They probably take Thought Knot Seer. They play Death Shadow. We untap. Draw another Power Plant. Play Blast Zone. Pass the turn. Interesting that they took Karn, but I guess that makes sense. It's kind of the most versatile card we have in the 4-drop slot. The Royal Scions. I haven't seen this yet. Target creature gets +2/+0 and trample until end of turn. Alright. We untap and draw Urza's Mine. I think I just have to pass and leave up Blast Zone activation to stay alive. Okay, opponent untaps, they draw a card up to 3. They loot. They discard a second Royal Scions. Go to combat. They attack for 5. We'll take 5. They play Bauble. Okay, on their end step, crack Blast Zone. They bauble us. We kill Death Shadow, untap. They draw a card. We draw Chalice. New plan. Play Chalice on 1. Opponent cycles Fiery Islet. Okay. Pass the turn. We need to draw a land, because we need to be able to play Karn and get Pithing Needle. Actually, no, we can't even Pithing Needle. We need to draw Tower so we can All Is Dust, or Walking Ballista. Or we need to draw Tower so we can Sorcerous Spyglass, because my opponent is about to do 9 damage to us, and we're going to die. We untap. We draw a map, which does nothing. So play Thought Knot Seer, which also does nothing. What are they doing? Okay, this actually makes sense. It lets them maintain the number of cards they have in their hand. Pass the turn. So opponent draws a card, ults, and kills us. Well, they did have the Stubborn Denial, so we did need to play the Chalice that turn. No adjustments, run it back. Alright, we'll play first. We'll keep this. In theory, we get to Tron here. Play Power Plant, play Map. Now, whether or not we have anything to do with Tron, that's different. When it plays Watery Grave untapped, we get Inquisition, they have to take Ballista. We untap, we draw Urza's Mine, play Tower, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. I might map for Blast Zone here, because we drew the Tower. They shock Blood Crypt. Blue-red, they get Sprite Dragon. Okay. They play Bauble. Yep. I really wish this said instant or sorcery. They hit us for 2. We drew Urza's Mine. We can either get a redundant tower, or we can get a blast zone. I think we get the blast zone. Untap. We draw. Okay, they bobble us to see what we drew. We drew Warping Whale, which unfortunately does nothing here. Play Urza's Mine. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Take a look. They have Stubborn Denial, Stubborn Denial. They are playing Gurmag Angler. We take... Do we take Stubborn Denial? Death Shadow is the only thing they can play in a reasonable amount of time. I think I take Gurmag Angler. Pass the turn. So they are playing the Delve Threat, so that's kind of interesting. Okay, opponent draws off of Bauble. Another Bauble. Okay. They get a counter on the Sprite Dragon. They play a Watery Grave, so we know their hand. They didn't shock, interestingly enough. They attack us for 3. This is fine. We untap. They're bobbling us now. We draw. Karn, Great Creator. So we can play Karn, Great Creator. They can Stubborn Denial, because we can't interact with the Sprite Dragon. And if they cast Stubborn Denial, it upgrades the Sprite Dragon enough. Okay. Play Blast Zone. Problem here is if I attack, they can play Death Shadow and have an alternate enabler. So I'm just going to play Blast Zone and pass. Opponent untaps, they draw an extra card, then they draw for turn. Opponent goes to combat, they attack for 3. We take 3. They play Polluted Delta. They crack Polluted Delta. They shock Blood Crypt and go to 12. Then they play Death Shadow. Okay. So we tick this up to 2. Untap. Draw a redundant Urza's Tower. Play the tower. Kill the Sprite Dragon. They have 1 unknown card in hand. And it really matters whether or not it can cause them to lose life. But I think we have to try this. They can double Stubborn Denial if they want. Okay. We go to combat. Now we hit them for 4. They go to 8. And next turn we can play Karn, Great Creator. Through potentially multiple Stubborn Denials. Never mind. This opponent has 2 negates that are 1 mana each. Play Chalice on 1. That should force a negate. Yep. And I think we have to play Karn out into the other one. Yep. Okay. Opponent's out of resources and so are we. If we top deck Ballista, they die. Opponent Thought Scours, that's pretty good. They mill Ceremonious Rejection and Mana Leak. They attack us for 5, which is actually 8. We go to 7. Okay, they didn't fetch and shock, interesting. We brick. Play wastes, pass the turn. Now we have to chump, and we're actually dead. Well, I feel like we fought valiantly, and the line I took in that game felt reasonable, but just wasn't good enough. See you guys in round 5. Alright, we're against a Lurrus deck. We have Chalice, Warping Whale, Walking Ballista. I'm going to keep this. If it's mill, well, then it's mill. Opponent starts Bauble, cracks Bauble to draw. Looking at their own top deck, they play Flooded Strand. Okay. Flooded Strand tells me that this may not be Grixis Death Shadow. This might actually be Hammer Time. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand, gets a Watery Grave. This could also be mill. Just mill with Mishra's Bauble. There was that weird... Okay, it's not. I was going to say there's an Esper control list that plays most of the cards we're seeing. That's like Esper Graveyard control, which it in theory could have been. Play Eldrazi Temple. We'll play Chalice on 1. I could potentially try and Warping Whale or Ballista here, but the odds that my opponent has a free spell they can play... Yeah, alright. Chalice is still, I think, the correct option. Is it? Yeah. Play Chalice. Pass the turn. Because if my opponent had a Gut Shot or a Warping Whale, we would be... Or a Gut Shot or a Mutagenic Growth, that Warping Whale would do nothing, and we would be completely toast. Opponent hits us for 1. We untap and draw Matter Reshaper. Play Tech Edge. So we can either Ballista or Thought-Knot. I think I'm going to Thought-Knot and take Lurrus. Let's see what's in their hand. Lightning Bolt, Fatal Push. Take Lurrus. Pass the turn. So my opponent can put 2 1/1 counters on their Sprite Dragon. They play Polluted Delta. They crack it for an island. They Fatal Push to put a counter on the dragon. We hit for 2. Untap. Draw Karn, Great Creator, which we can't play. Play Matter Reshaper. I guess it's just a race now. Archmage's Charm? It is Archmage's Charm. That's interesting. Okay. Hit them for 4. They go to 10. They untap. And they draw a card. Probably play a Steam Vents tapped. They Thought Scour to put a counter on there. They bolt, put a counter on there. Their last card in hand is a Steam Vents, I think. We get hit for 5, go to 11, draw Ugin the Ineffable, play Matter Reshaper, go to combat, hit them for 4, and this way we're representing lethal next turn. Opponent goes to 6, they untap and scoop. Nice. Alright, well we barely got there. Definitely bring in the Spatial Contortions, probably over the Warping Whales actually, and we'll try it like this. While they technically do have 1 power and toughness creatures, Warping Whale is far too narrow. We have 2 Tron lands, Spatial Contortion, All is Dust, Karn Great Creator. If we draw the last Tron land, this is great. If we don't, then it's bad, but I'm going to keep. Alright, opponent starts with an island, plays a bauble, cracks bauble, passes the turn. We untap, they draw a card. We draw Mind Stone, play Mine, pass the turn. Opponent untaps, they draw, they play a Drowned Catacomb, and pass. We draw Chalice, play Tower, play Mind Stone. Opponent logic nodding this? They are. Interesting. Okay, but that's why I didn't play Chalice. I figured they had some sort of counterspell. Although this really strikes me as the kind of deck that might be playing Drown in the Lock. Opponent plays Bauble, they crack Bauble, and they pass. We untap, they draw a card. We draw Thought-Knot Seer. Play Tech Edge. Did they Bauble us the last 2 turns? They targeted themselves. They targeted us onto their turn, so they don't know we have the Chalice. So we're going to play the Chalice now. This should force an Archmage's Charm from them. They Thought Scour us. Do they have Drown in the Lock? They do. Interesting. Okay. Well, next turn we can hopefully land Thought-Knot Seer. Opponent untaps. They shock a Blood Crypt, and then they pass. We untap, draw Wastes, play Scavenger Grounds, play Thought-Knot Seer. If this is Snapcaster for Drown in the Lock, I'd feel really silly. It looks like Archmage's Charm. Cryptic. Okay. Honestly, didn't expect him to play Cryptic, but I guess that makes sense. They untap, they draw. This is weird, because this feels like a control deck with, I guess, Blitz elements. I'm not sure about this. They put Lurrus in their hand. They play Sulphur Falls. We untap. We draw Karn, Great Creator. Play a Wastes. Play Karn. Wish with Karn. Let's get Grafdigger's Cage. Play Grafdigger's Cage. They bolt Karn. That's fine. We just stopped them from Bauble Loop. Unless they have an answer to Cage. They untap. Opponent is having a really tough time tapping their filter land for mana. They play Lurrus. They play Bauble. They crack Bauble. But they can't cast any more from Grave. They play a Polluted Delta. We untap. And before they get to draw a card, we are going to kill Lurrus. They crack Polluted Delta in response. Do they have an Archmage's Charm? They do not. Okay, now they draw a card. We draw a Spatial Contortion. Pass the turn. I could sack Scavenger Grounds, but I don't really need to, as long as I have Cage. Opponent untaps. They draw. They Thought Scour us, milling Wastes Expedition Map. Play a Flooded Strand. I could crack Scavenger Grounds and potentially nullify a Drown in the Lock, but that takes me off of playing Smasher. I'm gonna. This also stops Snapcaster shenanigans. We untap. Draw Smasher, of course. Play Karn. Force of Negation on Karn, sure. Pass the turn. Opponent cracks Flooded Strand. Gets a Watery Grave. Tapped. They untap. Then they pass. We untap. Draw Thought-Knot Seer. Play Thought-Knot Seer. Cryptic? Cryptic. Alright, pass the turn. I mean, when all of your counter spells start drawing you cards, you're gonna have better top decks than your opponent most of the time. We untap. Draw Karn. Play Karn. Force a Negation. Alright. Well, let's play how many counter spells does our opponent possibly have. I mean, they have to keep drawing them to stay in this game at the moment. They have no pressure whatsoever. They haven't hit any card advantage spells, thankfully. They play a land. They've been drawing only lands. We draw Matter Reshaper. Well, that's something we can play. Play Matter Reshaper. Pass the turn. At least if that dies, we get a draw. Opponent draws a land, thankfully. We untap. Draw Urza's Mine. Okay, play Urza's Mine. They gotta have a counter spell for this Smasher. They're gonna be real sad, because they'll never have the cards in hand to actually answer it on board. Unless they have Damnation. That would be bad for us. Hit them for 8. Why did I crack Scavenger Grounds for stopping Snapcaster shenanigans when my opponent can't Snapcaster anything? It was mainly the Drown in the Lock we were trying to prevent. Anyway, for anyone yelling at me in the comments below, I'm sorry. Opponent plays Cascade Bluffs and scoops. Justice. Well, we get a treasure chest. We get our entry back. So let's open up the treasure chest. 5 play points, a Doran the Siege Tower, and an Elementalist's Palette. Whenever you cast a spell with X in its mana cost, put 2 charge counters on it, add 1 mana of any color, or add colorless for each charge counter. Wow, that seems like a good mana rock. Hang on. That's worth 3 tickets. Nice. Alright, so the deck list. I still want to play a green Eldrazi Tron. Like, I want to play a green variant of this deck that plays Chancellor of the Tangle, just so I can Chalice on turn 1, because it's the only way that Chalice seems to get better against Blitz. I mean, the deck is fine. I don't really have any specific suggestions for this list. The longer I think about it, the less that I have to work on, really. I understand why Seagate Wreckage is in this deck, and I think that Seagate Wreckage is the card advantage land this deck would play if it wanted a card advantage land, because, you know, Gaia Reach, Sanitarium, Mikokoro are symmetrical, so you don't really want effects like that. The only problem is it's difficult to get your hand completely empty, so the edge case where you need Seagate Wreckage is very minimal. But I guess it might just be tech land number X, where, you know, it's the Xth most useful tech land, and it fits in 24. Kind of glad we had All Is Dust as our board wipe of choice. 7 mana really does seem like the top end of this deck. This version is not playing Ulamog, which I think is fine. Ulamog does give you some slight inevitability versus control decks, but there's not really any control decks. You kind of want to homogenize on the low end of the game. Warping Whale felt nice. A couple of times it was very useful. I'm not sure if it's better than Spatial Contortion as a 2-of. Like, I'm pretty sure I want to be playing 1 Warping Whale, but I don't know if I want the second Warping Whale to be a Spatial Contortion in the main deck or not in the current metagame. I like that I can swap the 2. Dismember is a necessary evil in this deck. It feels super, super bad against a lot of the more aggressive decks. Maybe that means the Seagate Wreckage should actually be an Urborg on the off chance we want to full price a Dismember without having to pay a bunch of life. Double Blast Zone was fine. There's a lot of 1-mana threats in the game, so that seems reasonable. There's not a lot of other good tech lands I can think of. You could play Radiant Fountain, though I don't think that's necessarily good. You could play Zhalfirin Void, but we don't really need the Scry. Ugin the Ineffable, I don't think we ever cast. It almost felt unreachable at 6 mana without, you know, because Eldrazi Temple doesn't tap for playing Ugin the Ineffable. I still think it's probably the Planeswalker we want to be playing in this version. Sideboard was fine. Spatial Contortion's necessary, but the Wishboard seemed okay. We basically never had a chance to play Karn and Wish. He either always got countered or immediately got bolted. So he is more of a late game threat. And occasionally he's just 4 mana Diabolic Tutor for your Grave Hate card. That's like your 1 mana Grave Hate card, so he's 5 mana Grave Hate, effectively. I think this deck is fine, so hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few have been earlier than that. And, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and you're all wonderful human beings. I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of May. If you want to support my channel directly and have your name show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon in the description down below. Thank you all.